Hey everyone, this is my pool plan video in DFFOO global version of the game in early December 2021. This video will be covering events and banners where Jecht will be a featured synergy unit, and from the derived infographic from Jakematt's global forecast on the left hand side, these events are Divine Shiva, Kadaj Lost Chapters, and the raid event featuring the release of Shadow's LD weapon. I'll also be including a timestamp in the video description that you can use to skip ahead to the section that you are interested in. So some quick disclaimers before heading into the actual video. The video really shares my plans for the upcoming banners as well as my thought process into how I make my decisions whether or not to pull or skip certain banners. It really may or may not be ideal for you or anyone else because there are many approaches to the game, and no characters are actually a must pull, and really there's many factors that should be considered when someone decide to pull or skip a certain character. So I'll just be covering why I make my decisions, and if you come to a different decision or if you have a different opinion, please feel free to share in the comment section as well so that we can have a discussion surrounding the next few banners. As always, some of these factors includes the amount of gems and tickets you may have, what roles you need for your roster, and everyone's a bit different here, and of course your playstyle and preferences, and who your favorite Final Fantasy characters are. With that said, let's head on to the video. Now before the first event, I just want to do a quick tally of the last arc, which was the arc featuring twins as the featured synergy character, and I'm including this because it does factor into my decisions into the upcoming banners as well. So in the last arc with the twins, as you can see here, I decided to go straight with gems, mainly because I actually want to score twins PT. I was very interested in making twins my next green character after Bards, and by using gems I give myself the best chances of scoring the BT weapon. That being said though, when I pull on the banners, I never go all in for the BT weapon. I always go for the LD weapon and hope to score the BT weapon on the way. So in total on the last arc, I spent 120,000 gems split across the 4 banners. I did skip Garland's banner because I already have his LD and BT weapon, and I managed to luck out on Twins LD and Garner's LD in 4 and 5 multiples, as you can see, but unfortunately I had to PT Oran's LD. All in all, it was still a very good arc for me because I actually was missing Sabine's LD weapon, Kamlana's LD weapon, and Seven's LD weapon, who are all the secondary featured characters on the banners, and I was actually quite lucky that I scored all of their LD weapons on the way. On the last banner with Oran, although I had to PT Oran's LD, I luckily snagged Twins Burst weapon on the way to the PT. So overall, although I did spend 120,000 gems, I did also get all the weapons that I was missing, so I will consider that a win. With that being said, it did take a very heavy price or heavy toll on my gem stash, and for this reason, during the next few banners, I plan to hopefully recoup some of my gems and instead use tickets more than gems. Alright, so the first event coming right up is the Divine Shiva event, and there will be 2 banners on this event. The first will feature the release of Jecht's LD and BT weapons, and the second banner will feature a rerun of Ardyn's LD and BT weapons, and both of these characters will be able to go BT plus and green for their respective BT weapons. Overall, I think Jecht is a great DPS unit. Even if you just manage to score his LD weapon, he features free turns when he breaks an enemy, and his S1 upon rework will feature an unbreak element inside, so you can expect to have multiple or many free turns with Jecht over the course of the fight. The other unique thing about Jecht is that all his attacks do fire elemental damage, I think except for his EX. And he also has an aura where he will imperil fire every time he attacks, which means that he is always going to do elemental weakness damage, except if the boss happens to absorb fire element, which is actually quite rare. With his burst weapon, it does provide him a very nice burst phase, and his burst aura is very potent as well, especially on the brave damage department. In total, if the enemy is broken, I think it's around 100% brave damage boost for the entire party, which is quite significant and will help out in the Lufenia Plus era. So my plan here is to go tickets for Jecht's LD. I'm still a bit undecided about his burst weapon, but I'm definitely want at least his LD weapon because he is going to be quite a useful unit, not only in Divine Shiva but of course during his arc as well, and you can then use him across multiple Chaos Challenge quests. For new players, the other benefit about pulling on Jecht's banner is that you also get Jecht from Final Fantasy Type 0, which is the secondary featured LD weapon. If you're not aware, Jecht from Final Fantasy 0, his LD call is one of the best defense down debuffs in the game, even to this day. Of course, nowadays it's not mandatory because there are other options, but if you find yourself lacking in call utilities that can inflict defense down, then scoring Jecht LD on the way when you're pulling for Jecht's LDBT weapon is quite a good icing on the cake, so to speak. For the second banner, I am going to skip. I already have Ardyn's LD weapon and I really do not have any interest in his burst weapon at all. I don't actually have Arcia's LD weapon, but I've come this far without her, and I don't think I will be needing her for any of the upcoming stages, so the second banner is a hard skip for me. The second event on this arc will be Kadach Lost Chapters, featuring the return of Kadach and his LD weapon, and this event will also feature the release of Maria's LD weapon from Final Fantasy II. Overall on this banner, I'm actually not too impressed. I'm not a big fan of either Maria or Kadach, but having said that, I am still planning to pull, and the main driving factor for me pulling here is mainly because I actually don't have any of Kadach gear. I've skipped him the first time around, and of course I don't have Maria's LD weapon as well, and I also do not have Elise's EX weapon even, who is the third feature character on this banner. So just on the fact that this banner provides me a lot of value when I pull, in the sense that I get to save on power stones down the line when I get multiple copies of any of their EX or LD weapons that I'm missing. I think it's a great banner to pull on. The other factor also is that when it comes to this banner, it is unlikely that I will have Jecht's burst weapon by this stage, and so at least pulling on this banner gives me another opportunity to get his burst weapon on the way. That being said, I am going to stop the moment I hit Maria's LD weapon, regardless of which other weapons that I get, but of course I'm hoping to score as many weapons as I can along the way. Overall, Maria's LD is quite decent. She's by no means a bad character, and if you have core already, her LD weapon functions in a similar way, in the sense that it applies a trap debuff on the enemy that will trigger each time the enemy takes a turn, or right before the enemy takes a turn actually. So it is in a sense a preemptive strike. And her trap is also unique in the sense that it first gravity shaves the enemy's brave down to 0, and then it does a brave and HP attack right after that. So regardless of how much brave the boss or enemy has, they will always be broken by her trap going off, which is quite good considering that it is a preemptive strike. Alright, the third and final event on this arc will be a raid event featuring the release of Shadow's LD. With his LD weapon, Shadow will also receive a rework that will boost his damage levels sort of on par to the current meta that we are in, and he is quite a decent damage dealer. The good thing about his LD weapon is that it also changes his follow-up attack Interceptor into Interceptor Plus, which will then become a double HP dump follow-up attack, which is quite a significant boost in terms of damage. That being said, I don't think Shadow offers much else to the party beyond damage, and due to the fact that by this point I will have Jecht as a damage dealer already, and I did also green twins before this, I'm feeling quite comfortable in my current roster of DPS characters, and I don't really see a big need to pull for Shadow here. I also already have Ares fully built, so as far as the other weapons on this banner goes, there's really nothing much else I'm missing. Putting all that together, I think this is actually a great banner for me to save my resources, especially since that I've been spending quite a lot of resource over the past few banners. So sorry Shadow, but I'll be skipping you this time around. Now, rounding off the video, I also want to quickly touch on Vanille and Lenna's banner on the JP side of the game. At the point of making of this video, it's still uncertain what will happen to these banners. For one thing, in the JP version of the game, Vanille did get a banner during Twins arc featuring the release of her LD, which we actually did not get in the global version of the game. In the JP version of the game, during Jecht's arc as well, Lenna did receive a banner featuring the release of her LD weapon. I don't know whether any or both of these two banners will be released. That being said, the next live stream for the global version of the game is coming up soon, so there may be updates there as to what will happen to these banners, but for now, I'm just showing the JP version of the banners here, but it's quite uncertain if and when the banners will be released. If the banners do get released though, by this point I will be skipping Vanille's banner because I already have Twins burst weapon. I mean, likely even if a banner is released, it will probably be a different burst character there, but I don't really see a big need for Vanille in my roster. Her biggest utility is on buff dispelling, and she also brings a very potent defense down debuff, which can be very handy, especially in Bufania Plus fight. But I've already got other characters in my roster who can fulfill that utility, so I feel quite comfortable giving Vanille a skip for now. Lenna, on the other hand, is another great support character, and you should really consider Lenna at least if you are missing debuff evasion in your roster, because it is quite an uncommon support utility, and Lenna is one of the characters who can give you 100% debuff evasion from her Windrake arrow. Her new LD has a very interesting mechanic where the damage from the LD actually scales off your party total HP in a way very similar to Porom's follow-up attack from her LD. So this also means that her LD damage will bypass all brave damage resistance and defense stats, and is mainly going to be calculated based on how much HP you have. Beyond her debuff evasion utility, she is also a great party healer, and overall I think it's quite a decent support you need to have, which is why if she is released, I will probably go after her LD with tickets. Lastly, on this video, I'll be covering my opinion on which characters would provide you the most value if you have very limited resources in terms of gems, tickets, or ingots. In this time around, I will only be covering newly released LD weapons, mainly because for the secondary featured LD weapons who are reruns, usually those characters tend to be a little bit outdated by this point, at least compared to the newly released LD weapons. And I really do not want to clutter up the slide too much with all the other extra LD weapons. So the focus will really only be on the newly released LD weapons. The characters here will be split across 3 buckets, and really it's not meant to mean any of the characters are extremely good or bad. It's really just an opinion on how much value you are likely going to get out of them. And one big disclaimer on that part is that value is very different depending on what you actually have in your roster. So if you are missing certain utility or roles in your roster that one of the characters provides, then their value will obviously be much higher relatively compared to other characters. So do take that into consideration as well. But I'll be covering some of my opinions on why I rate the characters as such. And I'll start off with Jecht, which I actually think is the biggest prize throughout the next few banners. And I think that's mainly because Jecht is one of the most up-to-date DPS we currently have, which will actually be very helpful in many Lufenia or Lufenia Plus stages, chief of which of course is his own event in Divine Shiva, which is very notorious for being quite a challenging stage to beat. And although I did say that I will only be featuring new LD characters, you can also see that I do have a very miniaturized version or picture of Jecht from FF0 sitting on the shoulder of Jecht from FF10, and I put him there only to highlight that for those newer players who are pulling on Jecht to fulfill their DPS needs, it's also a bonus that you can also get Jecht LD weapon from FF0 on the way, and you sort of also then get a good defense down utility call on top of having a very good DPS unit from the Jecht LDBT character. So overall, I think it is a good banner to pull on and will definitely provide you value in return for your investment. Next up is the role fulfillment. So to me, role fulfillment means characters who are actually quite good and can actually even be better than the characters under the good value banner, but it depends really on the utility that you really need or are missing. So here we have the 3 support characters, which is Lenna, Vanille and Maria, and they actually bring very different things to the table. So Lenna brings debuff evasion and healing, Vanille has the utility of buff dispel and defense down debuff, and Maria actually has also good healing, but she provides a very potent trap debuff on the enemies. That being said, they are all 3 considered to be support characters, and while they provide different types of support, due to the fact that you can only bring 3 party members in a conventional party, it's going to be very difficult to actually fit 2 or more of these 3 characters in one party. So that means that if you are pulling on 1 or 2 of these characters, you are likely not going to be able to use more than 1 or 2 of them at the same time. So my recommendation here, or my opinion here, is to aim for 1 or at most 2 of these 3 featuring the utility that you are missing the most. I think Maria offers the least out of these 3 for that reason, because majority of players in GR version would have pulled for core already, and even if you don't have core, you probably also would have pulled for Oren, who can provide you a nice cover, so which I think to me really makes her debuff less needed in the current meta. Whereas for Lenna and Vanille, their utility is going to be quite useful, and you may not have for example a debuff evasion or a buff dispelling utility for quite some time, in which case you may want to consider one or both of them depending on your gem or ticket stash. Lastly, in terms of consolation price, I have Ardyn and Shadow here, and to me, as damage dealers, if I already pull for Jecht and I'll likely be using him, I don't see much need for the other two. And again, for the same reason that you can only bring 3 party members in your party, it's going to be quite difficult to fit them on top of Jecht. And there's not a lot of reasons that you may want to use them if you already have other strong DPS, and we've actually had many quite recently, even if you decide to skip on Jecht. So many people would have Ace, many people will have Cloud of Darkness, many people will have Twins, many people will have Zidane even, for example, who are all quite capable DPS units. So relatively speaking, if I look at all the newly released LD weapons, Ardyn and Shadow will probably offer you the least value out of all of them. But that being said, if you really feel you need more DPS units, by all means, they will definitely fulfill that kind of need. So that brings us to the end of this video. In summary, I will be using tickets for Jecht LD. I plan to skip Ardyn's banner, and I will either be using gems or tickets for Maria LD, although it's most likely going to be tickets. It really depends on whether I really feel a strong urge to pull for Jecht PT weapon on the way or not. But I will not be chasing his burst weapon specifically. I will be skipping Shadow and Vanille banner if Vanille even appears. And if Lenna makes an appearance, I will likely use tickets for her LD weapon as well. So that's it for this video. As always, I hope it's been helpful, and if you enjoyed the content, do leave a like, comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.